ජීවිතේ වැඩිපුර ලැබෙන හොඳම දේවල් විඳින්න. දැන් SLT broadband වෙතින් 75% දක්වා වැඩිපුර data සතුට ජනවාරි 1 වෙනිදා සිට ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම්.
Making headlines on First at 9. Balancing Act. The Prime Minister says global power rebalancing enables Sri Lanka to leverage its strategic location in becoming a hub in the Indian Ocean.
Therefore, we are expanding our trade and investment relationship with a diverse set of countries.
Northern woes. Northern Chief Minister C. Vigneshwaran has strong words for the central government.
Policy and regulation must be in our hands while we promote private sector development. We are conscious of the possibilities of cannibalization of our province.
Breaking through stigma. Sri Lankan-born quadriplegic medical student overcomes barriers and becomes a doctor in Australia. Age is just a number. 99-year-old smashes the 50-meter freestyle world record in his age category. The Siberian freeze. The beast from the east leaves over 50 dead in Europe. Ireland shuts down and red alerts in the UK remain in place. A very good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to your top story tonight. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe sends a message of political stability within Sri Lanka to investors and corporates gathered at the Invest Sri Lanka Investor Forum in Singapore. Delivering the keynote address, the Premier highlighted that a reform-based economic agenda is in place while ensuring that global power play over Sri Lanka is well balanced. The Invest Sri Lanka Forum, which is organised to attract foreign direct investments to the island, was worked off under the auspices of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe today. The event was organised by the Colombo Stock Exchange, the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Sri Lanka-Singapore Business Association. Singaporean Minister for Trade and Industry S. Iswaran graced the event as the chief guest.
Sri Lanka is on the path of becoming an attractive place for business in South Asia. The ongoing global economic power rebalancing is resulting in a center of economic gravity for the Indian Ocean. This in turn enables us to leverage on our strategic location to become a hub of the Indian Ocean by building on our good relations with the key economies. We have accepted the concept of a free and open Indo-Pacific policy and maritime order proposed by Japan. We play a crucial role in India's neighborhood first policy. We are also an important linchpin in China's Belt and Road Initiative. Our government has taken numerous initiatives to stabilize and reorient the economy. We are moving from a growth model dependent on debt-fueled public infrastructure spending to an outward-looking one driven by private enterprise, exports, and foreign direct investments. We know we can leverage on our strategic location to expand market access. Therefore, we are expanding our trade and investment relationship with a diverse set of countries. The Singapore-Sri Lanka FTA is a part of a broader strategy of looking east to renew our trade relationship. We have begun to diversify our markets towards Asia and focus on plugging into Asian supply chains. We are close to concluding 2 more bilateral trade agreements. A, an economic and technology cooperation agreement with India, and B, a comprehensive FTA with China.
A question and answer session followed the keynote address.
Can you give us a sense of the power plays taking place in your neighborhood and what Sri Lanka is doing to navigate?
As far as the Indian Ocean is concerned, we have 3 major initiatives, which is also a reflection of the power plays. Maybe it's also due to the fact that US has pulled out, creating a vacuum. Into this has come the Chinese with the Belt and Road Initiative. And what we are concerned is the freedom of navigation in the Indian Ocean. So Sri Lanka is taking an initiative. We are discussing with Singapore and others to ensure freedom of navigation. There is no denial of sea access, and also how we deal with the non-state actors on this, because there are some important channels which are cause of concern for us.
In your insights you shared with us, you mentioned the commitment to the reform agenda. You're Prime Minister of a unity government, which you initiated yourself.
Unity governments with the 2 major parties are always a challenge. We do have agreement on reforms in many areas, and the plus point is the stability, because once the unity governments are over, whoever comes into power, it's very unlikely that they are going to change the system.
And I think a question on a lot of investors' minds here in the forum would be, given the government has 2 years left in office, in current office, what initiatives are you planning for this period?
The last local government elections was a barometer and a very, very strong message to the government that they should be more active. Unfortunately, we went into a time when there was a rapid increase in the cost of living. It's a barometer that the changes we promised have not taken place fast enough. We also spent the first 2 years in stabilizing the economy. And what we need in the next 2 years is increasing our exports, which we have done, and also a rapid increase in the investments coming to Sri Lanka.
Chief Minister of the Northern Province C.V. Vigneswaran had some strong words for the central government during his address at the tourism event held in Jaffna today. Speaking here, the Chief Minister said that the North is aware of possible cannibalization of their province by the South, especially when they have for the past 70 years been deprived of their powers and rights to look after their affairs themselves.
The steps taken for tourism development must be in consonance with our indigenous ethos, culture and aspirations. Every development project undertaken by the central government in our province must be with the consent and concurrence of the provincial administration. Otherwise it will be dominance by the centre to the detriment of the interests of the province. Policy and regulation must be in our hands while we promote private sector development. Hence the hotel school that is going to start their lectures on the 5th of this month must make sure our viewpoint in respect of tourism is shared with the students. Otherwise the students who pass out will have a lopsided view of our traditions and perceptions. Already our ancient history has been distorted by the centre to our students throughout the island. We are conscious of the possibilities of cannibalization of our province by the South, especially when we have for the past 70 years been deprived of our powers and rights to look after our affairs ourselves. As a humanity who have continuously occupied the north and east of Sri Lanka from pre-Buddhistic times, you must recognize our reasonable demand to be allowed to look after our affairs ourselves and be parties in collaborative ventures and enterprises with the South. I have always stressed this idea of partnership between the centre and the periphery. When an agreement takes place between a university within our jurisdiction and the centre, without our input in the preparation of the agreement, it can certainly have adverse consequences for the future of our people, which may not be identifiable at present. We need to have a long-term legalistic assessment made in such matters, especially when the 13th Amendment has given us insufficient powers and we are agitating for more rights in consonance with our history and individuality.
The recently made appointments to the Office of Missing Persons have come under severe criticism, both from the governing party as well as members of the opposition. They charge that those appointed are members of non-governmental organizations who levelled allegations of war crimes against Sri Lanka.
7 members were appointed to the Office of Missing Persons recently for a 3-year term with President's Counsel Salia Pires as its chair. Jayadeepa Punyamurthy, retired Major General Mohanty Antoinette Pires, Dr. Shriyani Nimalka Fernando, Mirak Rahim, Somasiri Keliyanage and Kanabadi Pillai Vendan comprise the rest of its members. However, a number of politicians expressed their displeasure over the appointments.
Let's talk about one person appointed to the commission, Nimalka Fernando. She was someone who concluded that Sri Lankan forces committed war crimes. By appointing such persons, it is evident that they are trying to establish the stance that Sri Lanka actually committed war crimes. Those who supported the LTTE are also appointed to the commission. Therefore, we don't expect that justice will be fulfilled via this office. We have doubt whether these members are connected to NGOs. We request the President to hand over this task to those who genuinely want to promote reconciliation in the country. When we study about these appointed, it is evident that most of them maintain close relations with the diaspora and had expressed views against Sri Lanka at various occasions around the world. The President is today unable to execute the executive powers vested upon him because there is a group within this government that have powers above him.
කණ්ඩායමක් මේ ආණ්ඩුව ඇතුලේ ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙමින් තිබෙනවා.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that India was first offered the opportunity of ports and highway projects in Sri Lanka, but was not interested since it was done so during the conflict. The former president is quoted as saying by Indian media outlet The Hindu in response to a question raised by journalists in Tirupati of India recently on China's increasing interest in Sri Lankan projects. The report added that when the previous government approached China, they immediately accepted the proposal and it was only a commercial transaction. He told journalists that Sri Lanka had good ties with India, although there were misunderstandings in the past. The former president, however, is quoted as saying that while India's external policy towards Sri Lanka is good, some cases need discussion. A possible no-confidence motion against the Prime Minister and the identity of the Minister of Law and Order most suited for the job are two topics which dominated the country's political dialogue in recent times. Today was no different as politicians voiced their views and concerns to media on the matters.
If anyone needs to bring a no-confidence motion, they can. The only thing is, it should win in Parliament. The no-confidence motion is an affair of the UNP. We'll see what needs to be done once it is brought. As I think there is objection from the hierarchy of the police over Minister Sarath Fonseca being made the Minister of Law and Order. We have to be careful when making an officer of the army the minister overseeing the police. There is no use in making cosmetic changes. Genetic surgery is what's needed, unless the National Alliance can't move forward. People ask these days as to what happens with the Ministry of Law and Order. We think it's better to not have it under the Prime Minister and be given to someone else who will not allow theft, fraud, underworld and narcotics. As a person who always speaks the bitter truth, I should say that some decisions made by the Prime Minister recently are wrong. The Prime Minister will hand over the Ministry of Law and Order to someone who is better at it because he took it over for a short period of time. If Sarath Fonseca is to be given the Ministry of Law and Order, it will be like a monkey being given a knife.
The Colombo Fort Magistrates Court was informed by the Deputy Solicitor General today that the Director of the Criminal Investigation Department sent a text message and an email to former Governor of the Central Bank, Arjuna Mahindran, notifying him to appear before CID prior to the 8th of this month. It was conveyed when the case pertaining to the Central Bank bond scam was taken up.
The owner of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Arjuna Aloysius, and CEO Kasun Palisena were further remanded until the 15th of March. The order was issued by Fort Magistrate Lanka Jayaratna when Arjuna Aloysius and Kasun Palisena were produced before court earlier today. They were arrested by the Criminal Investigations Department on the 4th of February. On the 2nd of February, the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court named former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahindran, his son-in-law Arjuna Aloysius and Perpetual Treasuries CEO Kasun Palisena as suspects in the CID's investigation into the bond scam. The CID filed its first B report in court over the investigation into the controversial issuance of treasury bonds and cited their names as suspects. In the meantime, the Court of Appeal temporarily lifted the overseas travel ban imposed on former Presidential Secretary Lalit Veeratunga from the 20th of March to the 30th of April. Veeratunga filed a revision application in the Court of Appeal this week following the Colombo High Court decision to reject his request to go abroad. The application was taken up for consideration today before a judge bench comprising President of the Court of Appeal and Justice Shriran Gunaratne. The attorney representing the former secretary to the President informed the court that his client requires to travel to Australia and Qatar due to official and personal reasons. Lalit Veeratunga and former Director General of the TRC Anusha Palpiter, who was sentenced over the Sil attire case, were granted bail by the Colombo High Court on the 20th of September. However, they were ordered to hand over their passports to the court.
President Maithripala Sirisena says that the government has launched a program to renovate 2,400 tanks across the country. He made these remarks at an event held in Polonnaruwa this morning. Renovation work of the tank Chandana Pokunu in Polonnaruwa commenced under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena today. The program is part of the district development project Pibidemu Polonnaruwa.
6 years ago, we commenced a project to build and renovate tanks. One of the projects was this tank, but it was incomplete, and due to the reclamation work, this area was destroyed. I remember back in 2012 when Parakrama Samudra did not have a drop of water and a project was launched to renovate it. But that too was a failure. At the end, we had to bring in heavy machinery and rebuild the bund of the tank. Giritale, Minneri and Kaudula reservoirs had to be renovated by funds obtained from the IMF. We have formulated a program in 4 provinces to renovate 2,400 tanks and reservoirs in the country.
Meanwhile, the unveiling of a 2-story building of the Madagama Mahavidyalaya and a 3-story building of the Manampitiya Tamil College, which fall under the Dimbulagal Educational Zone, was held under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena. The President also visited the residents of Dinula Chanadi, who ran on stage to greet the President at a public gathering held in Kaudula recently.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
When Sri Lankan medical student Dinesh Palipana was left a quadriplegic after a horrific car accident in 2010, he was told he would never become a doctor. However, defying all odds, 8 years later, Dr. Palipana is now working in the Gold Coast University Hospital in Queensland. He is now only the second person in Australia with quadriplegia to graduate as a medical doctor and the first in the country to do so with a spinal cord injury. Dr. Dinesh Palipana became a quadriplegic 8 years ago when he was in a car crash on the Gateway motorway in Australia. Unable to feel anything in his arms and legs, he knew as a third-year medical student that his spine had been damaged and his life had changed forever.
I wanted to do something where I could help people. And I thought, wow, medicine would be a great way to do this. Once I decided that I wanted to be a doctor, that was it. It changed my life, and that's all I pursued from that point.
After spending 7 months in a Brisbane spinal unit and 3 years in Sri Lanka, he returned to continue the third year of his studies in January 2015. After graduating from Griffith School of Medicine in Queensland, however, he was the last to be offered a position and all his classmates were offered jobs through state central process. Following a wait of 6 months, the Gold Coast University Hospital came calling and he was offered an intern placement.
It's been tiring and sometimes it's been challenging, but almost every day I'm reminded why I chose this career. I've had to find ways to do things just using the natural grip of my hand and my knuckles as well, and my wrists. I've just found ways to do different things with what I have.
Professor Harry McConnell from the Medical Faculty of Griffith University said that Dr. Dinesh Palipana was one of the best students the university has produced.
I took on the role to encourage him or nag him to come back because I felt it would be important for him and I felt that he would be a very good doctor. He had to do some adaptations to be able to do the CPR and basic life support. But the feedback that we were getting constantly from every single clinical rotation was that he was one of the best students that they've had going through.
And then deliver the shock.
Dr. Palipana said he wanted to encourage other people with disabilities to follow their dreams. He is a founding member of Doctors with Disabilities Australia, an advocacy group for physicians with disabilities.
We created Doctors with Disabilities Australia because the current climate for anyone with a disability wanting to practice or study medicine can be quite challenging, and that's something that we're passionate about changing.
Inflation, as measured by the change in the Colombo Consumers Price Index, declined to 4.5% in February from 5.8% in January. The Department of Census and Statistics said the CCPI for all items for the month of February was 121.9, recording a decrease of 0.9 index points or 0.77%. compared to 122.8 in December 2017. Now, this was due to the decrease of food items by 0.8% and increase of non-food items by 0.11%. Year-on-year inflation for food subgroups decreased from 10.5% in January this year to 6% in February 2018, and that of non-food group remained unchanged at 3.8%. The moving average inflation for the month was 6.4%, down from 6.6% in January. Land prices in Colombo district rose over 10% in the half-year ending December 2017 from a year ago, led by commercial properties, but appear to be slowing down. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka said its land price index, compiled biannually, covering the Colombo district, rose 10.4% to December 2017, continuing the recent trend in price movements in the district. A statement said that all three sub-indices covering residential, commercial and industrial land contributed to this increase. Residential land price rose 9.7%, commercial 11.2% and industrial land rose 10.1% in the half year to December last year. Residential land price inflation showed the sharpest slowdown, falling 9.7% in the 6 months from 11.9% in the period to June 2017. Now, commercial land price inflation has slowed to 11.2% in the period to December 2017 from 11.6% at end June 2017 and 12.2%. Industrial land price growth also slowed down to 10.1% to end December 2017 from 14.6% at end June last year. British Prime Minister Theresa May has set out what she called hard facts about leaving the European Union as she outlined her hopes for a future economic partnership. Speaking at London's Mansion House, the UK Premier added that the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice in the UK must end.
I want to be straight with people because the reality is that we all need to face up to some hard facts. We're leaving the single market. Life is going to be different. In certain ways, our access to each other's markets will be less than it is now. So we need to strike a new balance. The second hard fact is that even after we have left the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice, EU law and the decisions of the ECJ will continue to affect us. For a start, the ECJ determines whether agreements the EU has struck are legal under the EU's own law. As I said in Munich, if we agree that the UK should continue to participate in an EU agency, the UK would have to respect the remit of the ECJ in that regard. But in the future, the EU treaties and hence EU law will no longer apply in the United Kingdom. The agreement we reach must therefore respect the sovereignty of both the UK and the EU's legal orders. That means the jurisdiction of the ECJ in the UK must end. The next hard fact is this: if we want good access to each other's markets, it has to be on fair terms.
Amid controversy over his decision to impose tariffs on steel and aluminium imports to the United States, President Donald Trump has said trade wars are good. He tweeted that the US was losing billions of dollars on trade and would find a trade war easy to win. Yesterday, Trump said steel imports would face a 25% tariff and aluminium 10%.
The main trading partners of the United States, China and Canada have reacted angrily to President Donald Trump's announcement on plans to impose tariffs on steel and aluminium imports. Last April, he ordered an investigation into the steel industry under a clause of a 1962 law which grants the White House authority to restrict imports in the face of a national security threat. The investigation found that imports were harming the domestic steel and aluminium industries and could affect the defense industry. Taking to Twitter, the US president stated that the US had been decimated by unfair trade and bad policy and that steel imports would face a 25% tariff while aluminium a 10%. Canada, the biggest supplier of steel and aluminium to the United States, said it would retaliate if it is hit by US duties.
What I can say is that any tariff or any quotas that would be imposed on our aluminum industry, our steel industry, would be unacceptable. Canada would obviously take appropriate measures.
The European Union pledged firm countermeasures while Mexico, China and Brazil reacted, stating that they are weighing up retaliatory steps. Striking a defiant tone, Donald Trump tweeted, quote, "When a country is losing many billions of dollars on trade with virtually every country it does business with, trade wars are good and easy to win," unquote.
At the Colombo Bourse, market operations ended in positive territory with the ASPI moving up by 5.24 index points, while the S&P SL 20 closed 7.41 index points up. Market turnover declined to 449 million rupees, while foreign investors were on the selling side for the fifth consecutive day, with a net outflow of 139 million rupees. Let's cross over to Imesh Fernando for a detailed report.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 3,048.78 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 63.95 million rupees and foreign sales were 203.3 million rupees. There were 3 crossings today and the crossing turnover was 183.09 million rupees.
For a detailed review on how the market performed during the week, here's Stefan Dialvis from NDB Securities.
During the week, ASPI lost 0.3%, mainly due to price losses in counters such as AIA Insurance, Jana Shakti Insurance Company and Melsa Corp. The average daily turnover for the week was up significantly from last week to 1.8 billion rupees. Foreigners remain active, closing as net sellers with foreign sales accounting for 55% of the total weekly turnover. A net foreign outflow of nearly 489 million rupees was recorded. Out of the weekly turnover, block trades accounted for 74%, which was significantly a higher proportion than last week.
Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Large parts of Europe endured another night of freezing conditions as the cold spell, dubbed the Beast from the East, continues to wreak havoc. The number of weather-related deaths rose to 55, with 21 victims being from Poland. Many roads, railways and airports in Europe were severely hit by snow for a third day, with hundreds of schools being closed. Ireland was also heavily hit by the big chill, with business and airports shutting down. We have our reporter James Reid from London.
Hi there Sri Lanka, this is a very cold James Reid reporting live from Twickenham in London, England, where we've all been affected by the past 2 days' heavy snow showers. The Met Office has issued severe weather warnings throughout the country, including the highest weather warning of a red weather warning for southwest England and South Wales. That's a threat to life due to the heavy snow showers and extremely cold winds and extremely cold air temperature. There's been a severe disruption to the London transport network, with many train services either being delayed or cancelled due to the snow on the tracks and the ice on tracks, meaning they cannot, the trains cannot run. Buses have also been delayed due to snow in the roads, and also there's been a lot of people staying at home today and not driving on the roads due to the danger of the ice on the roads and the snow on the roads.
Meanwhile, in Japan, at least one person died yesterday as the worst snowstorm in years hit Japan's northern island of Hokkaido, causing delays in train operations and cancelled flights across the region. Now, over 300 trains in the region were cancelled due to the blizzard, leaving many passengers stranded at railway stations. According to local media, a total of 110 flights scheduled to depart from Hokkaido and northern Japan were also cancelled. Japan's meteorological agency warned people to avoid going out in what is described as the worst blizzard in years. The 84th Battle of the Saints between St. Peter's and St. Joseph's colleges kicked off at the Pisara Oval in Colombo today. At the end of the day's play, St. Peter's College was on 190 for the loss of 6 wickets in their first innings.
After being put into bat, St. Joseph's only managed 195 runs all out. Josephian skipper Jahan Daniel was the pick of the batsmen with a splendid knock of 93 runs. Peterite Sachin Silva picked up 2 wickets for 20 runs. Launching their first innings, St. Peter's College amassed 190 runs for the loss of 6 wickets at stumps. Peterite Charlita Fernando and Ramita Jaisena scored half-centuries. Josephians Ashin Daniel and Dunit Vellalage bagged 2 wickets each. St. Peter's College will start day 2 of the match 5 runs behind the Josephians.
George Coronis, a 99-year-old Australian swimmer, smashed the world record in the 50-metre freestyle by clocking 56.12 seconds. The record-breaking performance was seen at an official event in Queensland, marking a new benchmark for the 100 to 104 age category.
George Coronis broke the previous record by 35 seconds set in 2014 by British swimmer John Harrison. The event took place just before the Australian swimming trials for the Commonwealth Games, which will begin in the Gold Coast next month. Coronis will challenge the 100-metre freestyle record tomorrow with the hope of beating the current mark of 3 minutes and 23.10 seconds, which was also set by Harrison.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Let's now cross over to the Other Derana Weather Centre.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Well, tomorrow will relatively be a cooler day with temperatures ranging between 19 and 29 degrees Celsius, with the lowest yet again expected in the Central Hills. Well, looking at the map, a low pressure zone will form from the east of the island and will gradually disappear. Well, the sun will continue to shine in the areas of Jaffna, Mannar and Putlam. But that, however, will not be the same case in the areas of Putlam, Anuradhapura, Kandy, Colombo, Galle and Matara as well as Hambantota, as they can experience showers and thunder showers. That's all we have from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
And with that, we conclude this edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.